Shalom everyone, this is the third video, part 3 of the series that I was making on Isaiah chapter 9 in depth. Now, I was covering already the first, from verse 2 until verse 5, and giving the context which Isaiah was speaking about. So, little summary: the people of Jerusalem and King Hezekiah were surrounded by the multitude of people, by King Assyria and his armies, and they were in great fear, and they were in great stress. So they walked in darkness, but at the end God saved them, sent the angel of the Lord, and was burning with fire the army. There is no blood shed in this war, but it was very similar to the day of Midian. It was won by overnight, like the day of Midian. So go and watch the first one and second parts, and when you're done you can continue with third part, which I'm gonna unfold the next two verses. Okay, so I want to show you the Hebrew of verse 6. And actually it's verse 5 in the Hebrew Bible. כי ילד יולד לנו, בן ניתן לנו, ותהי המשרה לשכמו, ויקרא שמו, פלא יועץ, אל גיבור, אבי עד, שר שלום. So the King James Version chose to translate the verse according to a different vocalization, a different punctuation of the word Vayikra Shmo, Vayikare Shmo, because as you know, Jews have the Masoretic text, we have the vocalization and punctuation, and we read it according to this Mesorah. Now, I think that the King James translators used mostly in their translation the Bible according to the Mesorah, but sometimes they would differ when it comes to to different versions they saw in the LXX. So they chose to punctuate the word Vayikra here, as it's found in the Mesorah. They changed it from Shva under the Kuf and Kamatz under the Reish to Kamatz under the Kuf and Tzareh under the Reish, and it makes a difference, a genuine difference. It's not something that you cannot, something bad translation or something like that. It's a genuine translation. And then the meaning here is Vayikare Shmo, his name shall be called by others. His name shall be called generally, but you just have to know that in the Masoretic text, the word here Vayikra Shmo means, and he called his name. He, someone, individual, called his name, and we will see who called his name when I will come to the Stone Edition translation. But let's see how the King James Version translated. For unto us a child is born, unto us a sign is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. So all the titles you see here, Wonderful Counselor, Mighty, all the titles are regarding to God himself. But when you use the punctuation of the Masoretic text, Vaikra Shmo means someone individual called his name, and we will see how it works. This is the Stone edition. For a child has been born to us. The reason why they chose to translate was has been in the past. It's because the word in Hebrew there, the punctuation is yulad. Yulad means in the past tense, so he was born already. When you calculate the time that the prophecy was given in Isaiah, you see that the king Ahaz, the father of Hezekiah, was actually 20 years old when he started to reign. He reigned for 16 years, and his son Hezekiah actually was 9 years old when Ahaz started to reign. In other words, he was 11 or 12 when he gave birth to Hezekiah. But doesn't matter. Hezekiah was in that prophecy. That time he was 9. Some say he was 13. Different calculation, but he was 9. So when the Stone edition translate for a child has been born to us, and he's talking about Hezekiah. Yeah, Hezekiah was already born. He was a child. Now a child can mean a boy, and not a newborn. We will see in a few moments. So for a child has been born to us, a son has been given to us. Again, the word in Hebrew there is nitan, past tense, and the dominion will rest on his shoulders. The wondrous advisor. This is God titles. The wondrous advisor, mighty God, eternal Father, called his name. He called who? God called Hezekiah's name. You see, name is singular. He called him Prince of Peace. So the name of Hezekiah, the title of Hezekiah is Prince of Peace, and the other titles belongs to God himself. Okay, that translation can work if you're going and accepting the Masoretic interpretation and punctuation, and you can say interpretation too. Okay, so let's see, why would Isaiah give those titles? What's the connection here in this old story about the Assyrians and Jerusalem, Hezekiah? So we see why he did it, because God is wondrous advisor and counselor. God's advice was fulfilled to keep Jerusalem safe, and not the advice of King Ratzin and King Pakach, or should I say, King of Assyria. They wanted to all conquer Jerusalem, and their advice to do it did not succeed. Only God's advice to keep and Jerusalem safe was the one that advised that was fulfilled. God is the mighty God. He has the power and might to save the city from the king Assyria, and not as King Assyria said, who are they among all the gods of this land, of these lands, that have delivered their land out of my hand, that the Lord should deliver Jerusalem out of my hand? So he was, mocking God, and saying, God is like all the gods, the little gods, and he won't be able to be strong enough to keep Jerusalem. But no, God is the mighty God. He's not like the other little gods, and he's the God of gods. That's why he has the power to keep the city and to destroy King Assyria. Plus this is exactly how Isaiah is repeating this title in chapter 10 verse 21, as we will see below. So the title El Gibor, mighty God, is actually repeated by Isaiah concerning this war against Assyria. Eternal Father or everlasting Father. God is the everlasting Father, or the possessor of everlastingness. God is the possessor of time. He created time, and therefore He has the power to give life and to prolong Hezekiah's days by 15 years. So that's why we see all those titles are mentioned here by Isaiah, to emphasize that God, that is wondrous advisor, mighty God, and eternal Father, he called his name, called Hezekiah's name, Prince of Peace, because of the peace that was in Jerusalem after all their enemies and adversaries were killed. Now you may ask about the child. You can say, oh, this child is going to be born, it's a newborn baby. No, we see a child can refer to Hezekiah. He was 9 years old, according to the calculations. Some say he was 13. Joseph, Joseph, son of Jacob, was called child, Yeled, and he was only 17. He was 17 years old in Genesis 42:22. Ishmael was called child. He was 13. Look at Genesis 21:14. Also see the book of Kohelet 4:13. Wise child. So it's not about only a newborn. It's about a boy. It's about a boy, and according to the translation of Stone Edition, he was already born, and Isaiah got the prophecy that this boy is going to be the king and the Prince of Peace, and he would not see any wars, any defeat in the wars. Okay. Another point to support this translation, the arts called the Stone Edition translation, we see it is written, and his name shall be called, in singular. Okay, so not names. If it will be like all the titles were just for the boy, we will see something like and his names shall be called, names plural, but the word there is only shmo, it's singular. Now I looked at the Bible to see if there is kind of another verse that you will see name in singular and then you will see multiple of names, and I did find something. So I'm not going to be dogmatic over it, over the plural or singular argument. Genesis 48:16, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac. So the name, not names, of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, but you can argue about it because they had only one name, each one of them. God wanted to call each one of them one name, so Abraham and not Avram, the short version. So it doesn't matter. Another verse that you can see that that in the Hebrew one we could see it, in the English one you can't. But I will just first I will say the English one. Then said the Lord to me, call his name Maher Shalal Chashbaz. Here the King James Version translators connected all the words together, all these words together, one name. But in the Hebrew, you can divide it into two. Maher Shalal, you can see the colors in blue and in orange. Maher Shalal means fast spoil, and Chashbaz means quick or fast prey, or spoil. It's the same meaning, but two names. To see Shmo is singular, and then you can see two names, plural names. So, but the vast majority, all the instances in the Bible, when it's coming to call a name of someone, it's if it's singular, it's singular. It's just one name. So we are expecting to see, so we can understand why the Stone Edition, chose this translation, Prince of Peace. And it's not only the Stone Edition; it's a lot of other Jewish understandings of these verses. Okay, now let's continue to another possible translation. My translation. It's not my translation, but I don't think I saw it in any book. It's just my translation, how I see it, translated from the Hebrew to English. But first, I want to say how it works. We need to read Ruth 4:14. And the woman said unto Naomi, Blessed be the Lord, which hath not left thee this day without a kinsman, that his name may be famous in Israel. So you see the word, exactly the same words, Veikare Shmo, the same punctuation that the King James Version decided to use. The very King James translation translated the words Veikare Shmo, and his name may be famous in Israel, may be famous. And it's a genuine translation, so I'm going to use it, and I'm going to try to translate it by this meaning of Veikare Shmo in a famous sense. Okay, so it's like this. For a boy has been in the past born to us. It's Hezekiah. He was 9 years old. A son has been given to us, and the government will rest on his shoulder, and his name shall be famous by the wonderful Counselor, the mighty God, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. So it's a possible translation also to say, his name shall be famous. Who? Hezekiah. His name will be famous by the wonderful Counselor. These are all God's titles. Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Now, how God made Hezekiah's name famous? Few points. One, by the war and salvation. Everybody heard about this war. The Babylonians and the empire was of Assyria was actually fell apart. So it was, everybody knew about it, and that's why he got famous. A second point, by healing him and prolonging his life by 15 years, his name was famous by that point. Third, this is a quote, shadow returned backward 10 degrees. When God healed him, he gave him a sign. He gave Hezekiah a sign, and the sun went backwards 10 degrees. So everybody actually noticed that, and he got famous. The Babylonians came to visit him, but then he sinned. He showed them all the treasures and stuff. but nevertheless his name was famous. Another point, by bringing peace in his days and destruction of an empire, his name was famous. God is the Prince of Peace. Okay, so we because we're saying everything here, every title here is about God. So even the Prince of Peace is about God. And what does it mean? God is the Prince of Peace. He gave peace and quiet to Jerusalem. That's why God is called the Prince of Peace in my translation here. So again, I'm using Vayikare Shmo. I'm using the Hebrew punctuation like the King James Version one, and that's how I'm unfolding the meaning here on the verse. It's a genuine translation, and let's go a bit further down. Okay, what about the people that claim that all the titles there are for actually Hezekiah or the Messiah or a mere Messiah? Is there a problem with the mighty God or everlasting Father? How can we say and give those titles to a mere man? Okay, those titles, Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace, generally Jews agree that it's referring to God Himself in one translation, but the titles we found in Isaiah 5:6 can be also be referring a mere man and king like Hezekiah, and like a mere man and king Messiah, not necessarily God Himself. Those titles doesn't necessarily has to be applied on God Himself, God Almighty Himself. It could be referred. Those titles can be applied on a mere man, not a deity or a divine one. Okay, so let's take every title by itself and examine it. The title Wonderful Counselor, Pele Yoetz in Hebrew. I don't think there is any debate on this title or titles if it can be used on a mere man, so I'm going to skip it. Okay, this is the most, I think, arguable and debatable title. The title Mighty God, El Gibor. How can we say it's about a mere man, it's about Hezekiah? Okay, so I'm going to show you that in the Hebrew Bible, the word El can be referring to something great, something powerful, and not uniquely for God Almighty, for God Himself, with capital G. Okay, let's see. The righteousness is like the great mountains. You see the word El here. The King James Version translated great, not God with capital G, but great. Job. Okay, Job 41:25, 21:25, 41:25, and in Hebrew it's 21:17. It's talking about this, the whale. When he raised up himself, the mighty are afraid. You see here plural, the word El in plural, but you see the translation is the mighty, plural. The mighty are afraid. So you see the King James Version translator recognized that the word El can mean might, mighty. Another verse in Psalms 29 verse 1, give unto the Lord, O ye mighty, give unto the Lord glory and strength. Again, the word mighty here is the translation of Elim, plural for El, and we see it's not talking about God, it's talking about or deity, it's talking about mere people, or you can say angels. Psalms 80:10. The hills were covered with the shadow of it, and the boughs therefore were like the goodly cedars. So, goodly. Another translations translated as mighty. So, goodly. Goodly is here the word El, goodly or great or mighty. You can see it's not only exclusively a title for God. Another example from Daniel chapter 11 verse 36. And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, with small g, every god. You see the word El here? This is the translation, God, and El. You see, it can mean a mere man or a mere God, it's not about God himself, with capital G. But now in the second part, Ve'al Elelim Yedaber Niflaot, you can see and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods. The God of gods. El, the second L here is capital G. So the first L is the small g, and the second is a capital G. So you see the word El can mean, doesn't have to mean capital G all the time. Another example from Deuteronomy 32:12. So the Lord alone did lead him, and there was no strange God with him. Small God, you see, small g God, El, Necha, strange God. Okay, but as I said before, Isaiah 10:21, there is a title, El Gibor, mighty God. I'm going to quote it in the English. And it shall come to pass in that day. Which day? The day, by the way, the day when Jerusalem was saved, and the Assyrians were destroyed. That the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon the Lord, the Holy One of Israel in truth. The remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty God. So you see, Isaiah is repeating the mighty God in Isaiah 9. If we translate it, if we say the mighty God is talking about God there, so it's understandable why El Gibor in Isaiah 9 is talking about the mighty God. But if someone doesn't want to accept it and wants to say mighty God is with a small g, it's a possibility that we cannot deny. Although we see that when we come into the context and we're reading Isaiah 10, we see that the mighty God is actually a title for God himself and not to Hezekiah. So that's why in my translation and the translation of the Art Scroll and the Stone Edition, they accepted, as the Maserati text is telling us, that this title, Mighty God, is a title for God himself and not a title for Hezekiah, because the title of Hezekiah is only the end, the Prince of Peace. This is the title for Hezekiah. The other ones are for God. So in this edition and in my translation, you see the mighty God is God himself, and it's plausible because, as I showed you, Isaiah 10 is repeating the same thing. It's talking about Isaiah 10. If you read Isaiah 10, you see it's talking about Assyria and Jerusalem, especially the second part of this chapter. Okay, what about the title Everlasting Father? Okay, so if one wants to argue that the title Everlasting Father, Aviad in Hebrew, is a title for Hezekiah, I will show you how what will be his argument. Because let's see, in English you can translate Aviad as Everlasting Father, or the possessor of everlastingness, or the possessor of prey / spoil. The word ad in Hebrew is actually, as I'm going to show you, the word ad in Hebrew is also can mean prey or spoil, and avi is father or possessor. So the possessor of the spoil, Hezekiah was the possessor of the spoil. Now let's see the verses where the word ad appears, and you can see yourself, King James Version only is translating it as prey. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf, in the morning he shall devour the prey. Yochal ad, you see ad means prey, and shalal means spoil, if you were wondering. So prey is ad. Another example in Isaiah 33 verse 23. They tackling our lusten, they could not well strengthen their mast, they could not spread the sail. Then is the prey of the great spoil divided. You see the word prey here is translation to the word ad. So ad is prey. So Hezekiah can mean, the word Aviad can mean the possessor of the prey. Hezekiah is the possessor of the prey. Just a second, I will give you another verse that shows that the word ad is prey. In Zephaniah 3:8, therefore wait ye upon me, said the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey. See the same word, prey, lad, ad. Okay, so what's the connection between the prey and the king Hezekiah? We know that the kings took the prey. They're the first one to take the prey and to divide it to their people. For instance, we see in Isaiah 8:4, for before the child shall have knowledge to cry, my father and my mother, the riches of Damascus and the spoil of Samaria shall be taken away before the king of Assyria. So the king of Assyria will take the spoil. So this is exactly what's going to be, that Hezekiah is going to be the possessor of the spoil, of the prey, because he is the king. Another example in Ezekiel 29:19. Therefore thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will give the land of Egypt unto Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and he shall take her multitude, and take her spoil, and take her prey, and it shall be the wages for his army. You see, the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, will take the spoil and the prey, and he will divide it, he will share it with his army. He will give them wages. This is exactly what Hezekiah would do with the prey. Okay, so we can see the title Everlasting Father, or should I say the possessor of prey. Aviad can be in the possessor of prey, spoil, and Hezekiah was the one who possessed the spoil because he was the king, and he divided the spoil. Now, another point here, that the names Aviad and the name Gabriel are very common among Jewish names today. People call the children Aviad. Yeah, they call them Aviad, not because they are possessor of spoil or prey, but the names in general in Hebrew, in the Bible, are connected often to the word God. So the word Aviad and Gabriel, for instance, Gabriel means mighty God. You see, Gabriel is Gabriel, and it sounds like El Gibor. Gabriel, El Gibor. It's just switching the words between the El and Gibor, the positions of the words, and then you get the word. So, okay, the next title is Prince of Peace, and here also I don't think there is any debate on this title, if it can be applied on a mere man or a king like Hezekiah. Okay, then the next verse took us a long time, sorry, but the next verse, of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end. So, because I told you the context here is about Hezekiah and Jerusalem and King and Assyria, the word here of the increase of his government and peace, now we can see that Hezekiah said to Isaiah, "Good is the word of the Lord, which thou hast spoken." And he said, "It is not good if peace and truth be in my days." So you see, Hezekiah got a promise from God that peace is going to be in his days, but not in later days. If you can read the 2nd Kings, peace will be in his days. So the increase of his government, of Hezekiah's government and peace, there shall be no end. Now, you would ask, just a second, no end? No end is, only God has increasing government that continues for everlasting and no end. So how can you say such a thing? How can you apply it on Hezekiah? Okay, so first you have to see that the word in Hebrew is ein ketz. No end to the peace. Shalom ein ketz. Now, you can see that Isaiah himself in Isaiah 2:7 is saying about, he's talking about Ephraim, about how much treasures and horses they have. The land also is full of silver and gold, neither is there any end of the treasures. You see, any end, no end to the treasures. It's an expression in Hebrew, in the Hebrew language, to say no end to something, to express a great multitude. Not that there is an infinite number of objects, but a great multitude. Neither is there any end of their treasures, neither their land is also full of horses, neither is there any end of their chariots. You see, enketze, there is no end for the chariots, but obviously you can notice it's not about infinite number of chariots. Another example from the book of Kohelet 12:12. And further, by these, my son, be admonished of making many books, there is no end. In other words, stop making writing endless books, or making endless videos on YouTube. So no end is an expression to a great multitude of objects, of things, and not things that are infinite or something that attributed only to God. You can see this also the term en mispar. There is no about the camels. Again, this is a verse in Judges 7, if you remember from previous videos. The first and second part, the Midianites were such a great multitude of army, and they came with and their camels were without number. Now the camels were not a kind of deity or something, they just were without number. A great multitude of camels. Another example, there are 80 queens and 80 concubines, and virgins without number. Again, the expression without number is a great number, not an infinite number. So we don't have to apply anything divine upon these virgins. Okay, now what about, let's come back, what about the term and to establish with judgment and justice from henceforth even forever. This is another claim that you can make. How can you say that Hezekiah will have a kingdom that will continue from now until forever? How can it be if it's a mere person, a mere king? Again, we have to see what is the Hebrew word, and to understand the Hebrew language and what the word forever means in Hebrew. Just bear with me. Okay. Psalms 115 verse 18. Starts in 17, sorry. The dead praise not the Lord, neither any that go down into silence. But we will bless the Lord from this time forth and for evermore. Praise the Lord. So you see the same expression, and we will bless the Lord from now until forever. It's talking about people that will bless the Lord from now until what? Until forever? It just means until the end of their lives. Until the end of their lives, not something that will go on for everlasting, because a person eventually is dying. But greater example and demonstration for this is from the book of Samuel. But Hannah went not up, for she said unto her husband, I will not go up until the child be weaned, and then I will bring him, that he may appear before the Lord, and there abide forever. Now Hannah noticed in this verse 122, she says he will abide there forever, ad olam. Okay, the same expression in Isaiah 9:7. But then notice in 1:11, few verses before, Hannah is saying the same thing, same idea. I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. So you see, when she said that he will abide there forever, actually means all the days of his life, because this is the understanding of the Hebrew language. When I say, and I suppose in English too, when you say, I will marry you and I will be with you forever, it means I will be with you until the end of my life, all the days of my life, and not something that has to be uniquely the divinity or deity. I don't have to be someone like God to say such a thing. So this is exactly what Isaiah 9:7 is saying. From henceforth, even forever, the zeal. Okay, this is the end of all this segment. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this. Now, if you read, as I told you, all the location where the story of Hezekiah and King Assyria and his army, the battle of King Assyria and Hezekiah, you will see the same expression. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this in two locations, Isaiah 37 and 2 Kings 19. You see, for out of Jerusalem shall go forth a remnant, and they that escaped out of Mount of Zion, the zeal of the Lord of hosts shall do it. You see, Isaiah is repeating the same idea, same sentence, and it appears exactly, almost exactly the same wording in 2 Kings. The zeal of the Lord of hosts shall do it. So you see, it's another proof that Isaiah is speaking about Hezekiah and the Assyrians. Now, I got a few points about why I think Isaiah 9:6 does not speak about Jesus. Why I don't think Isaiah 9:6 speaks about Jesus. One, the people that walked in, I'm quoting, the people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. The temple was destroyed and the Jews were scattered, and they did not see any light in the days of Jesus. So I don't understand how it can be applied on Jesus. The people saw a great light. The temple was destroyed. Jews were scattered all over the earth. And so how is it applied to Jesus? I don't understand. Second point, they joy before thee as a man rejoiced when they divide the spoil. Again, all the spoil and the goods of the Jews were taken from them in the destruction of the second temple. The Romans divided the spoil, not Israel, in Jesus' century. So how they want to apply this Isaiah 9 to Jesus, I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me. Another point, for thou hast broken the yoke of his burden, the rod of his oppressor, as in the day of Midian. Okay, the Romans oppressed the Jews, so it was not broken. And what's the connection to the day of Midian to Jesus? We saw the great connection between Hezekiah and the day of Midian. But what's the connection to Jesus? But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. Jesus was pierced and bled to death, not burnt with fire, like a burnt offering. Although Christians claim Jesus was a burnt offering in Genesis 22:8, if Jesus was a burnt offering, I would understand it. But we know that Jesus wasn't burnt; he was just, pierced. And now it's exactly the opposite. But this shall be with burning fuel of fire. So how can you apply it on Jesus? I don't understand. and the government shall be upon his shoulder. Government. Which government exactly was or dominion was upon Jesus? Maybe it's a spiritual, but nobody can see. Nobody can prove that he had any dominion. It's all something you cannot see with your eyes. You cannot tell. He wasn't an earthly king, so it fits more to Hezekiah than Jesus. Okay, the last one. From henceforth, even forever. You see, from henceforth, Isaiah was standing there 800 years before Jesus was born, and Isaiah is saying from henceforth, from now, even forever. So how can it be applied on Jesus if he wasn't there already? I can understand how it can apply on Hezekiah. He was there, and he was alive, but how it applies on a person that was born only after approximately 800 years. So this is the points why I don't think Isaiah 9:6 or Isaiah 9 from 2 until 7 is talking about Jesus. And I hope you have learned a bit from my presentation. I worked hard to assemble all this together. As you can tell, English is not my first language, and it's a bit difficult for me, but I hope you have learned something, and I will be glad and happy to get comments from you. And in the future, I promise to bring some more videos about different verses and chapters in the Hebrew Bible where Christians try to claim that Jesus is the Messiah and God. So thank you very much for listening, and shalom to you.